Hi there. In this video, we're going to look into deep tech and AI cryptos, including FET, ICP, as well as TAO. If you're new to my session, as usual, I'll cover the Wyckoff stage, trend change potential, as well as key price levels. These are education content only, not financial advice. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel and my Substack and Asset Lens yet, do it now. And I'm going to quickly show you what you can get for free at this moment in time. That's the one I'm talking about. That's for the crypto. And here, that's the one for the macro market, including the macro numbers as well as equities, commodities, etc. Now, get back to the FET chart. Here we are seeing the accumulation cycle entered into a mid-late stage, and the volume has been climbing and the price has been going up. However, it received a little bit of resistance at the green key level of 26 cents 80. And if we look at what happened over here back in 2023, during the time, it came back down from the initial automatic rally, what we called, okay? It accumulated further after the initial accumulation period. Then it launched to this, what we call sign of strength. With a little bit of price retracement, the whales shaking out the last bit of paper hands before they let the price shoot to that, FOMO back in March 2024. So here, from a positive angle, we may be close to the point where later parts, in the next few months or near the end of the year, depending on the macro environment, how the war develops, how the private credit crisis develops, as well as the new FET, what they're going to do, there is a chance, if this trend continues, that it will come back to show us a sign of strength again, similar to what happened back in 2023-24. All right, assuming crypto will continue to be there for the long term. So that's the big picture. Okay. Short-term resistance, if you consider this may be where the range is, if it is trading sideways, let's assume that's the case. That's the bottom of the panic over stage. That's the retest over here. So the light blue key level of 0.347 is a stronger support back then, and then now turns a stronger resistance when the price tried to go up. All right, so that's the stronger resistance that I see after the green key level of 0.268. The green may hold the price for a short while, but the light blue is a stronger challenge or stronger test. Again, we can see even in the past period that a location where we can find multiple references that construct this stronger level over here. Now, to the downside, if the test isn't over, okay, if I draw a box over here, you say, hey, isn't it like a downward channel or a blue flag that's over there? If you see it that way, that's no problem. Okay, if it really is the case and gets rejected by the ceiling of the downtrend. The lowest point back in 2002 accumulation cycle all the way into 2023, it was the red key level of 0.052. So I'm not saying that's definite, but it's good to track. Let's keep this box over here and see when the price is going to break outside of it, because now this triangle is pointing towards near the end of May, around the 25th. Okay, so if it really gets suppressed, but finding support at the same time at the yellow key level of 18 cents 40, then by end of May, we'll get an answer. Because either it has to break outside of this downtrend or it has to drop below the yellow support line. Now, let's get to the daily chart to look at it a little bit deeper. We talked about this uptrend support line. Technically speaking, it still hasn't been broken yet. And we are at the cross junction over here. I said 21st of March, and we're right at that spot. So probably sometime later today, with 7.5 hours left, or tomorrow, we'll get an answer whether it's going to break this weaker resistance at around 22 cents 40, which it did a couple of days back, but then it dropped back and stayed below for the past 2 days. Now the bulls and bears are fighting along this line. Okay, if it drops below, that means altogether it's falling below this horizontal support as well as this uptrend support. So it's falling below two support lines altogether at the same time. However, if the bulls successfully defend this, okay, I'm going to move this over because that date has passed. Near the 25th, that's another wedge at the tip of the wedge over here. All right. So the price, if it continues to trade up in the next 3 or 4 days, there's another window where the bulls and the bears have to confirm. Like I said just now when I drew this yellow downward channel, if they decide that it's time to get outside of this downtrend, then began around the tariff, right after the tariff announcement date last year in October, actually. If that's the case, then by this date, they have to break outside of this resistance, the channel ceiling, and up and challenge the green key level. It can drop back sideways after getting rejected from the green key level. Okay, that's one way it can happen. Or if the bullish narrative is very strong, that's going to push it to challenge the light blue key level, which I mentioned that it's going to be a more difficult level to break. Okay, so sideways for the base case, very bullish narrative, challenge this light blue line, and if there's the bulls basically lost momentum, if that's the case, then it will continue to edge towards this triangle. And there are 2 dates over here. One is the 15th of April, the other is 25th of May, which the 25th of May we already mentioned. The 14th of April is basically the date where this dashed support line, the 22 cents 40, crosses the ceiling of the downtrend. All right, so multiple windows, multiple opportunities for confirmation of the downtrend to come in. So as long as the downtrend is not over, their tendency coming back to rechallenge the orange key level is still there. Okay, that 11 cents 20. It's not over yet. You see how the price challenged the ceiling of the downtrend 2 times, and then the third time just earlier last week. Okay, or earlier this week, depending on whether you're, on a Sunday or on a Saturday. So next one is ICP. ICP from a big picture perspective, mid-late stage of accumulation, is coming back from the test to the red key level the second time, okay? The first time was the tariff announcement date last year, October. The second time was early February, and mid-Feb, late Feb, another time. Now it's getting rejected from the orange key level of $2.8. It tested it last week. This week it tried again, but failed. The fortunate thing is that the volume, if you look at it, is not very high. So there's no big commitment either side. Nothing too alarming as of this moment. What we want to see is still the price to come up with sustained volume, higher than average volume, and come to challenge the green key level of 4.35. And it looks like it's doing it. in a very slow pace. Okay, if we look at what happened over here, it's not all white candles. Okay, sometimes we just get a red one in the middle. It doesn't happen exactly the same way every time. Okay, but if people or money is really coming back, then this is the first stage we need to see to get the confirmation. Not saying the price can't go back down, like this example over here, just last year. After the sign of strength, the price can still go back for a deeper test. Also here, you see it drops back before it shoots up to the next formal high. All right, just that the downtrend line, this red dashed line, I'm still tracking. Because for a lot of altcoins, they are exhibiting the lower peaks scenario. So one lower than the other. If it doesn't break, if those altcoins doesn't break that trend, you'll just get lower and lower return every time, even if there is really a wave. Okay, so there are two hopes if you're supporting, say, ICP. One is for the liquidity to once again come back, showing the sign of strength, and also because the sign of strength, when it comes, when time goes on, is getting very close to this trend line. So breaking this trend line as well, set a platform stage and shoot to the actual high. Best if it can re-challenge the high back in December 2024. So at least after like 1.5 years, it's still able to get back to a previous high. So providing some kind of comfort to the supporters that really is not over yet. Some altcoins just never come back. Daily chart. Here, like I said, somewhere near March 17th, we'll get an answer whether it's going to break out or not. And it came exactly on that date that the price got rejected. And now, not only that it's get rejected by the orange key level as well as the channel ceiling, the orange key level of $2.80. Yesterday, it also was a second day that closed below the uptrend support, the uptrend that started on 24th of February. Okay, the 19th closed below that support line, as you can see. And then eventually yesterday, the bulls tried to reclaim. Okay, the wick went above that line, but unfortunately it closed below. So it reads to me that this sideways trend, at least, is going to continue. And I did mention, given this intermediate support, this dashed line over here at around $2.24, that's pointing towards a late April, around the 24th, given this triangle over here. So same thing, when the price travels along, if it still gets suppressed by the ceiling of the downtrend, but finding support along this yellow dashed line, that's the next window to confirm the breakout, breaking outside of this downward channel, let's put it this way. If it doesn't, then the next is the red key level of $2.05. That's pointing towards early May. 6th of May. So that's ICP. Now we'll get to TAO. For TAO, big picture, early stage, at best mid stage of the accumulation cycle. So it entered the accumulation cycle later than ICP. And what happened last week was, I consider, the first sign of strength. Remember, sign of strength may or may not happen. Okay, look at what happened over here back in 2025. There wasn't really a strong sign of strength before it shoot to the buying climax. Okay, and there are cycles where you get multiple signs of strength, like the case back in 2022, 2023 for some older altcoins. If they have been through that cycle, take the chart and look at that. They basically, the whales basically do this paper hands, diamond hands shaking for a couple of times, playing people around. playing the small fishes around like us. And then before, they are done, okay, they shake it enough. And then once they're done, they let the price shoot up. I mentioned a couple of times, they are looking at a window where they've got sufficient news to let that happen. May it be Fed printing money, lowering interest rates, whatever that is. And with a lower volume of negative news. Okay, with what's going on right now, the war is driving oil price up. I mentioned in one of the sessions before that there are different groups of people chasing short-term profit. They will just flock to whatever is the fame at that point in time. So that's why money is not going back to assets like crypto, because there are better options and people are FOMOing into those. Earlier, near the end of last year, it was gold, silver, which I warned. Don't get in when the price of silver shot above $90. You will at best get a 30% gain within like a week or two, but then suffer a big loss if you got in like about $90. So all those parabolic quick profit chasing, you witness it over the past 2-3 months. Okay, jumping around from precious metals to oil, and then next there may be other narrative stocks. Okay, before money go to spread around again, and maybe a bit of them flows back to crypto. Okay, a long story, but that's where the whales are going to play the game until the point, oh yeah, good news for liquidity and risk on sentiment comes in. Money printing, interest rate lower, all that comes in. The geopolitical risk stabilizes. That's when the next FOMO comes. And which altcoin project would the money goes to? No one knows. It depends on the narrative then, and whether the project team is still actively maintaining and upgrading the project towards a better position and getting stronger partnership. May it be from investment or business business development or opportunities. Okay. So here, the daily chart of TAO. Given the backdrop of the big picture, okay, there's kind of shaking. It re-challenged the automatic rally resistance of $300. Okay, it then wasn't able to get through after 6-7 days of challenge. Now it's getting to the point where, let me shrink this box, let me just keep it that way because it may come back to this channel. So this channel was where it started to climb back in mid-February, up till the point it broke out and challenged the automatic rally level. Okay, now it's trading this way. If it continues to trade sideways, there's a date. Now you can tell me, right? You learned enough. You can tell by this date, a decision has to be made. Either it breaks above this 300, or it drops back and drops below this currently a support line and re-challenge the green key level of 268, which the past few days it has been doing that. So it may come down earlier than this date. Just that assuming if this line really shows as a support in the next few days, that's the date we're looking at. If it drops back to the channel, then the 220, the yellow key level, as well as this uptrend support line, will still provide the short-term support. I mean, this line over here. The yellow line definitely is going to be where the bears are trying to break, but the bulls are going to defend it strongly. However, if this accumulation really, the whales are really going to shake it hard, don't be surprised this is going to break and the price comes back to challenge to 180 or even 140, like what it did back in February, for the entire week. That can still happen. That's still a possibility. And dropping below it, there's still a slight chance. Not that I hope to see it, but I mentioned many times during the accumulation cycle, subsequent tests, like look at this one back in 2025, can go deeper than the initial panic over stage. Okay, if this is the panic over stage, this round of tests has already gone below it. Okay, there can be a second round that comes back to the same level. Not saying it must happen, but it's a possibility. All right, so if you're interested to access these sessions 2 days earlier, join the other members that's already getting early access now. And remember, the Substack at Asset Lens is free for now. So I'll post these dashboards right after today's sessions, and you can take a look and see whether that helps you understand the market better. Thanks for joining me. See you in the next session.